You're gonna go on the chief referee's whistle. Like the chief referee says, I think it's good to go.
Never gonna do, never gonna do. Never gonna do, never gonna do.
Hey, welcome back to the Glycogen Cycling channel. Last day of Intelligentsia Cup, and it was kind of an interesting start to this race, not gonna lie. I'm gonna tell you a little bit of a story before we get into this, but I'm gonna let this first lap play out. So before this race, I was getting my bike ready, about to put the bike on the roof, and decided to lube up my chain, standard before race practice, and I noticed my rear wheel was hitting my brakes. I'm like, how does that happen? So I checked to see if it was not in the dropout straight, or what could possibly have happened, because I didn't crash, didn't bump into anything super hard, and my wheel just somehow went out of true, and it's a tubular with internal nipples, so I have to rip off that whole tire to true that wheel, and it's just a big process. So I was just, with that and just the whole thing of not doing well at this race just really got to me, and I almost didn't show up to this race because of that. I was just like, I'm freaking done with this. But that being said, I put a rear wheel on of my aluminum wheel, so I ran carbon front tubular, clincher aluminum rear, and this attack right here going into the end of the first lap was kind of just like a I'm just pissed off, I need to get my energy out right now attack. And I got a decent gap, I'm not gonna lie, but I kind of blew myself up. You can see heart rate 176 already. But the thing is with bike racers, I don't know any other sport where you put in as many hours as you do on the bike, especially for just amateur guys. If it's a professional sport, I can, you're playing professionally, I can see you putting in a lot of hours. But just the standard amateur racer, Cat 5, 4, 3, 2s, and definitely the ones, are putting in 10, 15, 20 hour weeks, while holding down a full-time job. No other sports like that. So when you get into a race and you are not doing as well as you hope, that kind of just really gets to you, dude, I'm not training hard enough. These guys are just so much better than I am, and it actually knocks you down. So that's kind of the point I was at the beginning of this race. I just didn't do as well as I hoped. Got dropped 4 days, and that it got to me. So luckily though, I sucked it up, put a new wheel on, and headed to the race. Finished it up one last time. So got in that breakaway, and these guys, I noticed they were coming up pretty fast, so I was just like, I'm not gonna be able to hold this. Got my pre-race pissed off legs off, and decided at this point to just sit in and see what happens. I still wanted to go for a breakaway. I with that little bit of a test, I knew I could get away from them. So that's kind of what I was looking out for in the remaining part of this race. So at this point, you just saw, I rolled up to my buddy Dylan that I met at this series. You can see him right there in front of me in the red. And I was like, all right, as soon as they get pulled back, let's go. I know he's always looking for a breakaway. So there was probably a 4-man break off the front, and we're putting in a decent effort to pull them back. So I'm like, all right, as soon as they go, everyone's gonna be tired, let's go. So at this point, we are, you know, got to get up to the front because that's where the race happens. And let's fast forward a little bit. So you can see he went up there, and our plan like never really worked out. I was holding the wheel, and you could see I'm moving up a good portion right there. One thing about this course is on this back section right here, it was a headwind, so it was really hard and it used a lot of energy if you were out in the wind right there. So a good place to move up was right here in the tailwind section, and you can see Dylan making a huge move up to the front, making up probably about 10 spots right there. And I was feeling actually pretty good about my position right now. I'm right behind Will, which you saw me shout out in a previous video. But at this point, getting close, so I made this big move up because I kind of lost the wheel a little bit on the previous couple laps. So I made up a decent amount of spots right there. And one thing we kind of messed up on, so Dylan actually bridged up to the breakaway, and I was like, after the race, I'm like, no, that's not what we were supposed to do. We were supposed to wait till they get pulled back. But he was like, it looked kind of threatening, so I was like, yeah, good decision. And he ended up getting a preem, so that was a good decision on his move. Got like a $50 preem, and yeah. So our plan with breaking away didn't really work out too much. So the next thing I was trying to do is, you know, sprint, obviously. And I'm gonna do the last couple laps for you guys here. But basically, I knew the sprint was gonna be super fast because tailwind, that was actually pretty strong, and, you know, big long straightaway. So it's definitely a super powerful sprinter type of sprint. And you can see me here, last 3 laps, I'm kind of just trying to hold my position. I'm not too, like, I'm not upset about where I am right now. I'm like, if I can keep it right here, this is like perfect. So one thing I was just trying to do, which I haven't really done before, is when one person passed me, I'm like, okay, I need to make up one spot, because I was really happy sitting like between, you know, 5 to 10 wheels back. You can see me right now. I think I'm 6th, right? Yeah, 5th or 6th, something like that. And so as soon as one person passed me, right, towards the end of this lap is when it starts to get a little bit more aggressive. Right now I'm kind of, you know, just chilling pretty easy. And this guy 202 in front of me, I think he won the overall. Like, he's a sprinter. He won this race for sure. So I'm definitely feeling good being on his wheel. And that's one thing, once you race a little bit more and you race with the same guys over and over, you know who's always up there, you know what wheels to follow. And that's actually a really crucial skill to have, is know what wheels to be on, because there's some guys that just know where to position themselves and how to position themselves. And if you can just stay on their wheel, it's basically like a free lead out almost. So, you know, I'm feeling really good about my positioning, and you're gonna see now is when it starts to get a little bit more aggressive. Guys are coming around you, so now I'm like, okay, I need to make up, you know, 2 or 3 spots. And you can see my head always on a swivel. So, you know, in the lower categories, some guys are always just looking forward. You got to know what's happening behind you. Obviously, do it in a safe way. Don't be looking back for a good, you know, 5 seconds, but give it a little quick glance to make sure, you know, who's coming up on my right, who's coming up on my left. And that's, you know, sometimes there's guys moving up with no one on their wheel, and you can get a quick glance at that and just hop right on their wheel, take their wheel up to the front, and use no energy at all. So that's a very crucial skill to have. And at this point, I'm like, okay, I'm a little bit further back than I want to be. The heavy hitters are probably 5 or so, maybe 6, 7 wheels in front of me. So I want to get up there. And you can see, you gotta have to look up ahead too. Don't always look directly at the wheel in front of you. Look up ahead to see what the guys are doing. So I saw they were kind of slow pedaling a little bit, or not pedaling at all, some guys. So I knew they were slowing down, and using my momentum coming into that, I just decided to keep up the power a little bit, just stay steady, and I was able to make up some positions and put myself in a way better spot with going into 1 lap to go. So this was the most bumpy part of the course right there, going into turn 3. But the rest of the course is actually really smooth. One thing they did new this year is they put these barricades right here on the right. Before, we had that entire section. I didn't really notice a difference too much of the race. It didn't you know, make the course that much smaller, where we didn't even need that, because this is a huge road. We didn't need that wide of a road. And you can see here, guys are still passing me, and this is when it gets more aggressive. So I'm like, okay, you know, a couple guys pass me, I got to make up a couple positions. I know this guy in the yellow, he's always up there, so I'm gonna get on his wheel. And this is where it gets aggressive. So sometimes you gotta, you know, take the inside line. Obviously do it safe, but you know, I'm not totally dive bombing it right there. But you know, the guys knew I was there, and they're aware of that. So last lap here, I'm feeling really good. I'm like, even though my heart rate's at 175, I'm actually like, you know, the adrenaline's going definitely at this point. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get a top 10 right here, because I need it. I haven't done well this whole series. I need a top 10. So I'm feeling really good at this point. Like, pretty much everyone has established where they want to be, where their position is, and we're going fast enough into this headwind section, you know, 31, that it's not, you know, no one's really passing. So at this point, it's down to the sprint, and I'm doing 1,000 watts out of that corner, which I had to do to stay on the wheel and hold my position. And I was thinking of going right now, and I kind of hesitated, and that's kind of what cost me. I should have just launched it, but these guys just blew me away. I'm going backwards on this sprint, and it really, yeah, need to work on my sprint for sure. But I ended up finishing 9th overall in this race. Not overall, but in this day, on day 10, I finished 9th. And I was actually fairly happy with that, considering everything that happened before this race started. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. I think I'm gonna do a complete overall thoughts on Intelligentsia this year. There's actually a couple other things I want to touch on. One thing is the goat controversy. If you're not following me on Instagram, there was kind of a controversy that I wasn't too happy with that Intelligentsia did, but I'll probably get into that in a different video. Feel free to follow me on Instagram and message me about that if you're interested. But yeah, so that being said, before I get on a tangent, hopefully you enjoyed the video again, and like and subscribe, and I'll see ya in the next one.